From losing your identity to becoming resilient. Welcome to Power to the People Pleasers. My name is Amy Ballantyne, and I'm so excited to have my guest Bhavya here today. Welcome.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. It's my honor to be here on this show. Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited for our show, our episode today, because you have a really powerful story in many ways that I think many people will be able to relate to. But before we get into that, I would love to know, have you ever been a people pleaser? And if yes, how did that show up in your life?
Oh my God. Ever? Oh, yes. A big people pleaser. Um, yeah, if I think about it, I think all my life I was a people pleaser till the time I came to a place of recovery, I would like to say, where I actually, I said enough is enough. So big people pleaser, and I feel our people pleasing is a trauma response because we are trying to become whatever others want us to be. And that was my story from the beginning, from childhood. I will not go into the details, but I went through some abuse as a child, very young age, and then grew up with feeling like I was not enough. I didn't
Mhm.
feel I belonged. And just to belong, just to be accepted, just to feel like I could survive. Because if we feel we don't belong, then that's a threat to us. Then we feel we won't be able to survive. And we know it's a big bad world out there. So that's where I came from. And I didn't even realize that I was a people pleaser and that I was becoming everything that everybody wanted me to become. And
You
that
know,
was
I want to honor you for what you just said at the very end is I didn't realize that I was a people pleaser. And I think that's the case for a lot of us is that we don't realize that that's what we're doing. So I really appreciate that you put a voice to that and honor that you're sharing, what's coming up from you from your past. I wanted to highlight for the listeners, you are a incredible human, a leadership and life mastery coach, breathwork facilitator. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit later. Author, speaker, and thought leader dedicated to transformation, who specializes in personal development through working on mindset, somatic, emotional, behavioral, and unconscious levels. So I really am excited for us to dig into this idea of losing your identity. And I'm wondering if you can share what you feel aligned to share from your story about how did losing your identity play out in your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, so, as a child, I mentioned I went through abuse. And as I was growing up, just to fit in and to be liked, and because if others liked me, then I liked myself.
Mm.
Because my definition of who I was dependent on the outside world. So, I was bending over backwards. Um, you know, I got married and the marriage also, because when there's a pattern of abuse, it's not others actually, it's us. We are the ones, we are giving our power away all the time. And the outside world or the relationships that we are in, they are just reflecting back to us what's going on inside. So the abuse started in the marriage as well. And I went through a phase where I felt completely lost because I was being a good wife, a good mother, but who was I as Bhavya?
Mm.
Like, it was such a gray area because at that time I remember if somebody asked me, "Would you like?" I was like, I don't know. And if you go through that where you are unsure of who you are, what you like, what you love, then that's like a big question mark. because that gray area comes from trying to fill in the colors for everybody else and not knowing who you are in between all of this.
Wow.
So that's where I was. And my awakening, I like to call it,
Mhm.
happened when, so just to kind of backtrack a little bit, I was, I was into Reiki. I was into all of this. I was highly intuitive as a child. And for, any of your listeners who are intuitive, intuitive people are more sensitive. So they are not only people pleasers, but they are givers. They keep giving and they don't know how to receive.
Mm.
That doesn't help either, because if we are emptying our cup, how can we continue giving more and more? Well, we still do. So that's where I was coming from. And it came to the point where I was overwhelmed. I was tired because I was burning the candle at both ends. I was the breadwinner for the family. I was going out and working, running the household. I was the maid. I was the chef. I was the mom. I was the wife. So
Mhm.
everything I was doing, I was the cleaner. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, the relationships with others. So I was still a daughter, a sister, friend. So all of that, there was a lot going on. And it took a higher level of abuse for me to kind of wake up and realize that enough is enough and I'm not going to take it. And that also, when I felt, I think now that if it was only me, I would have still gone in that rut, in that cycle.
Wow.
But when it came to things for my daughters, so I went through physical abuse and all, and we won't get into this because that's a little sensitive and people might get triggered. People pleasers for sure will get triggered with that. But just to kind of give a touch point, my daughters were really young. My older one was 4, my younger one was 2.5 years old. And this was the time that my then husband forcefully took the younger one. And when I saw my daughters, and how my older one was trying to protect me, a 4-year old shouldn't have to do that, but how she was
Mm.
trying to protect me, that is when suddenly this something clicked. And this thing came like, no, I don't want my girls to grow up thinking this is okay and this is how women should be treated. That's where, in a snap, I was like, no. Like suddenly I had these rose colored glasses. I was in la la land. Give, give, give. It's okay. Maybe there's something wrong with me. So, I will bend over backwards. I will do whatever it takes to make it work. But then I was like, no. Because I couldn't even think of my daughters going through something that I was going through. That was my waking point, I would say. Because
Mhm.
before that, even though I was into healing and all of that, it was all about, no, you be good to others and the good will come back to you. So
Mhm.
I was in that world.
Yeah.
And just to, I'll plug in something here. I also do Akashic records and, of course,
Mm.
Reiki and healing. And also, coming from that place again, it's all about you do good and the world will, reflect it back to you. But
Mm.
then sometimes some things are there to teach us our boundaries.
Mm.
And that
Yeah.
was my realization.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to dig into this message that you have around, serving everyone, losing yourself, and then coming out to the other side. You had this moment that shifted, thankfully, because your daughters were there. As you said, you may not have shifted if they were not around. So let's talk about shifting into the resilience. So how did that come to be?
I have to say upfront, it was not easy,
Mhm.
but when we stick around. So, first and foremost, I want to say something that I should have said earlier, but hats off and kudos to all the people pleasers.
Mm.
We beat ourselves so much. We beat ourselves down because we go, oh, I wish, oh, why I'm like that. I should be better. But people pleasing, pleasing people is not easy. You cannot please everyone. So people pleasers actually have the secret power. The only thing is they're using that power to give their control away.
Mm.
If we just shift the lens a little bit, and if we could use this power in our benefit, using that power to have healthy boundaries, using that power to say no when you don't want to do something that others are telling you to do or expecting you to do, and not feeling that if one person walks away, that means it's the end of the world and we'll be alone.
Yeah.
We are so strong. If we can survive just by pleasing others, imagine what all we can do, how powerful we are if we use that power in a positive way for ourselves, while honoring our microscopic truth while honoring that of others. It
Mm.
does not have to be either or.
Yeah. I think that's where people get stuck, right? Is that they feel like it has to be either or. They have to, and listen to the words, they have to, they should, they need to do these things for other people at the expense of their own selves.
Yeah, because we live in a world, we live in a culture where, it's either or. You can't have everything. You have to
Mm.
pick and choose. But we don't have to.
Mhm.
And I am a living example of that. So now that going back again, so when I came to that
Mhm.
place where that realization came in that no more, and
Mhm.
I felt like I had to stand up for myself to be a good role model for my daughters.
Yes.
So when I was coming from that place, you know how the mama bear energy comes up because you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a place I was coming from, and I was like, enough, no more. So suddenly, all those strings, that the entanglements I had, and I was taking everything quietly because I was thinking that there was something wrong with me. And these people are helping me because they're helping me become better. So I will do all it takes to please them so I can feel accepted, I can belong. Now, the funny part is, if we don't belong to ourselves, we will never belong to anyone else.
Wow.
So that was a different journey altogether that started from me. It was not easy. Yes. So, if anybody thinks, oh, it's a piece of cake, it is not.
No.
But I can guarantee and I can assure you, by if you persist and if you carry on, by the end of it, it will be a story of you can have your cake and you can have eat it too.
Mm. Awesome.
So from there, I I was working obviously, but then I was at places where my ex-husband's family had connections. So it was a tough phase because wherever I worked, they knew somebody. So you know how subtly things can be made a little bit difficult. Demands from the bosses coming at like 5 in the evening. I want this report on my desk first thing in the morning, which was not possible, not humanly possible, because I was working for global companies. Now, if you have different locations all over the world, you cannot reach out to people because some are sleeping, it's midnight, some are like, people are not at work, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So from that place, I was feeling frustrated. And that as I was a single person doing all of this, and then I had to, my daughters used to go to a daycare, I had to pick them up from work and that. So all that, everything started showing the signs of this overwhelm and frustration that was going on
Mm,
inside of me.
mm,
Fast forward, I was not working because everywhere I went, and I tried 3 jobs, same thing happened.
mm,
So I was sitting at home. I used to literally drop off my daughters to school, wait around, pick them up, bring them home. That is what I was doing. And I was living at my parents' place
mm,
because after all this physical abuse and all of that, my parents felt that I wouldn't be safe there, you know. And I skipped over the part where my younger one was taken away and I had to go to the court to bring her back. But again, I'm trying to avoid the very, sensitive, triggering
mhm.
details.
Yeah.
So, fast forward, I was at a place where I felt there was nothing for me in India. And this is when I was still in India. It was a long time ago. My daughters are all grown up now, 20,
Mm.
29 and 27.
Uh-huh.
And this is when they were 4 and 2.5. It's a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
So I, that was, when all the doors are closing, and people pleasers are very strong though inside. So they don't give up. I have to
Mm.
say this, I have to mention this because we don't hear it often.
Yeah.
So this was a time when I thought, because I had to make things work, I had to take care of my daughters. I requested my parents, because by this time I didn't have any money. I requested my parents if, I literally said this, and they're not even gambling people, but I was like, could you please take a gamble on me? I want to see what's outside of India and see if there are any opportunities. And again, this is all coming from a mother's perspective because I wanted
Mhm.
to give my daughters a better life. I didn't want them going through what I went through. So they said, okay, $500 borrowed, got the flight, came to New York, and I had no idea what a nickel or dime is. And I worked on cash at a Dollarama, a dollar store.
Wow.
God. I remember standing there. Oh my God, Amy, with stress, people put on weight, right? So by this
Mhm.
time, I was like, I had put on weight. And when I went to New York and I started working, standing there for so many
Mm.
hours and working, when I came back after 4 months, and I earned, by the way, I earned $4,000. Not
Yes.
earned, I earned more. I saved $4,000 because I didn't have
Wow.
any money and I had to pay the lawyer and all of that. Uh,
Mhm.
and the judge had put a condition that he would only approve the divorce if there is some money put aside in my daughter's name. So, 2 fixed
Mm.
deposits or some sort of money in their name.
Mhm.
And so I saved $4,000. And I was literally, when I was in New York, I had this Tropicana pulp juice. I'm not advertising for them, but I had Tropicana orange juice with pulp. I had a Wonder Bread, not advertising for that as well. Um, and I used to buy like a bag of apples
Mm.
and vegetable cream cheese.
Mm.
This was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the good thing that came out of this was when I came back, my parents did not recognize me because I had lost so much weight. See here, the emotional
Mm.
stress was not letting me eat. Instead, I was working, right? Because I needed the
Mm.
money.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was that. Went back. The divorce was finalized and all because now there was money in the
Mhm.
girl's name. And the judge, obviously, he was looking out for the girl. So I have so much respect for that. Um, and then Once this was done, and March 8th, I always mention this because this just feels so heartwarming and special to me. International Women's Day, March 8th is when I got my divorce. So that's when it got finalized. I was like, yay!
Yeah.
After that, I came back. I have been in Canada for what, like 23 years now.
Mm.
And I literally started my life from scratch. And I'm sharing this because it takes resilience. And it's all the hurt and the pain that we have gone through. When we channel that and focus our energies, so not getting distracted, but focusing our energy onto our goal and what we want to achieve. My goal was to get my girls out of there. And there was no compromise that was going to happen. I did a 2 year course from George Brown, and I needed 5 points that gave me towards immigration. I graduated with Dean's Overall Award for Excellence.
Mm.
And oh my God, that was how my life turned around, because based on that, then I didn't know anybody here in Canada. So my professors were my support, my testimonials,
Mm.
whatever you want to call it. So after that, like getting jobs and all was easy. I'd hired a lawyer, and again, Green and Spiegel. I am not. At that time, they used to be the best immigration lawyers. And fast forward, so my daughters were able to join me here. I have to
Mm.
mention one thing though, when the children go through so much of trauma, now they didn't understand why I left them with my parents and I was away for those 2 years that I did the course. Because for them, it was as if their parents had abandoned them. Now, these are small kids.
Mm.
So it took a lot of work in the initial stages once they joined me for to build that bridge and that relationship again.
For sure.
And then I would say we are in such a beautiful place. My God, my daughters spoil me rotten.
Mm.
Like they shower me with gifts. There's so much love. And when I look at my life, I won't change anything. I think what I went through gave me the strength that I needed. It's just a little bit of shift in perspective. It is how we show up for ourselves. Because once we start showing up for ourselves, people start respecting us.
Mm.
We're no longer people pleasers. In fact, we start having healthy boundaries, and we don't even have to communicate those boundaries to others because people can see them. It's our energy,
Mm.
and our energy talks before we enter a space. So,
Yes.
so this is where I am, and I love the breath work as well.
Mm.
Feel breath is what is the first thing that enters our body,
Mm.
makes us come alive, and that's the last thing that leaves our physical body. And I feel it does not get enough credit.
I agree.
And mostly, because I whatever I have done, I've done because I was working on myself. I was doing it for myself. And when I saw these huge shifts, and I'm even a certified coach, and why I did it, because I was looking for practical explanations for everything, because I'm all healy feely. I do energy work, but there's a practical side of me also that
Yes.
I'm looking for conviction. And how do
Mhm.
I get that? So that's why I did whatever I did. And I feel our trauma is so easy to release if we just learn how to breathe properly.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So I would love for you to share with the listeners where they can connect with you if they want to learn more, they want to continue their journey and connect with you after they've listened to this great podcast.
Okay, thank you so much for that opportunity. I can be reached at, so my name, Bhavya Gaur, that's the
Mhm.
one you can look up on the internet and you can find me that way.
I'll
Otherwise,
link everything in the show
oh,
notes too.
Perfect.
Yes.
Otherwise, I do have a website, kindredsouls.com. This one is a little bit of a twist. So it is KINDREDSOULZ or Z S
Mm,
kindredsouls.com. And I do some free webinars and stuff, and I know there's one coming up soon.
okay.
I would, if I could support you in any way, I would be honored. And breath work, coaching, group coaching, one-on-one, Akashic records. I also hold Akashic record workshops if any of you is interested in becoming a practitioner. And most of my work is because I do believe that we are a work in progress, and we are always learning something new about ourselves.
Mm,
And
yes.
when we become self aware, that is the path that leads us to self actualization.
Mm,
And if we know
yes.
who we are, what we bring to this world, then we are not dependent on what the outside world thinks about us.
Mm,
And that is
that's
a place
powerful.
of empowerment. Yes. Yes.
Mhm. So
So,
powerful. And you had said that you'd like to offer a free gift, so I'll link the
yeah.
link in the show notes for the free gift. You want to tell the
Yes.
listeners about that as well?
Yes. So for everyone, because I have so much love and respect for people pleasers, so I have, I'm giving you a free gift of meditation. It is a 30-minute meditation, and it will help you connect with your inner self.
Mm.
So to bring you into that place of empowerment, because once we know who we are, then I wouldn't even say the world is our oyster. I would say the multiverse is our oyster.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, and I would love to, if you guys download or listen to the meditation, I would love to hear what you have to say. And I'm always open to suggestions because
Mm.
I'm here to serve. And if there's any way or you need any extra help or anything, and I would love to know how I can show up so you can show up in empowerment. So
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful heart and story this morning. I greatly, greatly appreciate you being on the podcast.
thank you so much, Amy. Amy, it has been my honor. And ah, this impact that you are creating, I'm so grateful to be a part of this. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And to all the listeners, I want to thank you once again for tuning into Power to the People Pleasers. Like, share, comment, all of the things. So we can spread this message far and wide. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Stay tuned for the next episode coming.